Obviously, we've already heard from Trent and Kairouan a little bit. I want to ask Shelley, well, first of all, Shelley, I understand congratulations are in order, right? Shelley,
I'm not pregnant. I feel like that's
no, not that.
Always the thing people think.
Shelley's been involved for a long time around the merchant acquiring business, expert in that area, but now moving into a strategy role, right? So a lot more broad. This will be one of your kaupapa that we're talking about right now. So yeah, congratulations on that. And nothing like throwing you in the deep end, right? What's your response to what you've heard from Trent and Kairouan? What are your thoughts on the challenges and opportunity of both real-time and modernisation, sort of putting the two of them together?
Thanks, Andrew, and hi everyone. Thanks for having me here at the conference here. I think there's been a lot of discussion, and one of the benefits of coming in 3/4 of the way through is picking up on what other people have also said and contributed to the conversation. Some of the challenges around real-time payments, I think that we've heard, especially from the bank CE panel, is the investment required, and actually the size and scale of New Zealand does prohibit some of that investment. And when we're starting to look at the challenge of investing in innovation and then weighing that up against a lot of the regulatory work that we've got going on, that can be one of the challenges that we are facing. I think we've also talked about the sensible order of how you implement real-time payments and payments modernisation. Certainly Kai's picked up, and Ruth previously as well, on making sure that transactions are secure. We do want safety. I know, Sean, you didn't think that was particularly exciting to mention, but as a bank, we are the custodians of our customers' money. That is our top priority as the bank. We wouldn't be in business if we couldn't look after their money. So that really has to take top priority. And some of the other things I've picked up on, I thought Luke Wilson actually made a really interesting point around not underestimating change management when introducing a modernised system. I think that's something certainly with any project that anybody ever does, you probably always slightly underestimate the change management, how people's behaviour needs to change versus just the technology changes that you're making.
Perfect. Thank you.
And that was the challenges.
And the opportunity.
So I think, for real-time payments, for me, I would say the opportunity probably comes more from the real-time data than it does the real-time payments and the transfer of value. So I think that's probably an area that I would expect to see a lot of innovation and opportunity coming out over the top of the data that we'd have access to in real time.
Perfect. Thank you. So segueing from that very point, real-time instant payments, obviously speed is inherent in that, but we're talking more than that. Kairouan, even in your presentation, you touched on aspects of the data, as Shelley's just referred to, but also who's playing in the ecosystem as well. So apart from the speed aspect, what are the other aspects of payment modernisation that are important for us in this room to understand?
From my experience, I would give 3 main points. Number 1 is on the having clear visions and industry alignment is important. And number 2 is about the focus on the infrastructure readiness, because we need to look at what we have today and what is needed for the future. Because I always say to myself and to the team that whatever things we do for today, it's meant for tomorrow. It is not just for today. So we build something would last for the next 5 to 10 years. That's always my ambition. And number 3, prioritize the risk management. So these are the key advices that I would give to the industry here. Okay,
excellent. And you're saying 5 to 10 years? Is that sort of horizon?
Yeah.
Okay. That's good to know. We're, as most of you will be aware, we're Payments New Zealand are leading some consultation on this at the moment, and we deliberately titled it Payments for the Next Generation, very much tapping into that theme, possibly with a slightly wider horizon in terms of what we need to look for going forward. Trent, have you got anything to add?
Yeah, like I said, I'm not new to New Zealand, and I'm definitely not new to payments. So, I've seen other innovations try to be deployed within New Zealand, and it's been a very different experience that I've had in other markets. And And, it can come down to not only the investment and the regulatory changes and some of those key fundamentals, but also the consumer adoption as well. So, if I think about contactless payments, lots of New Zealanders were using their cards and to pay for everything, and they didn't see the value in, hey, why should I need to tap my card? And then it starts to get a bit more complicated. We've got a very good, simple system that works now. Why would I adopt new technologies? And it's very similar with real-time payments. We've got the SBI 365 where, hey, we're doing multiple batch payments throughout the 7 days. What's going to move that to that next step to make it truly real-time payments?
Shelley, have you got anything you want to add? You've already mentioned the data component of it.
Yeah, I'd like to just pick up on what Kai said as well, because I really think, and we've heard about this yesterday, having a New Zealand vision for payments and the future of what that should look like, and I think the government involvement within that would be really helpful to keep us all on the same path. I think having that clarity of what's going to be delivered within what timeframes, what are the outcomes that we're looking to see within those time periods would be really helpful for what's already a collaborative industry to just really align and get focus.
Yeah, it's a really good point. And actually something that we note as you went through some of those jurisdictions, you were talking about Kairouan and the different drivers. And we're avid readers of your Prime Time for Real Time reports every year when they come out. Look forward to them. See what you say about us. But seeing those, what is really clear is that every jurisdiction is different, has different contributions. You mentioned the fact we've already got a reasonably fast 7-day 365 payment system. It's not quite instant, and it's not quite 24 hours. But we're starting from a different point from some of the others. Now, also touching on that point of the regulator view. Now, as Kairouan, you mentioned several jurisdictions. It's effectively a mandate or a commissioning from the regulators. So, taking all of those points together. When we talk about those different organisations, the banks, the fintechs, the infrastructure providers and the regulators, what are your observations perhaps for us and your reflections for us?
Yeah. Well, a couple of things, Andrew. You mentioned about the words mandate as well. Absolutely mandate is important. Yeah. And if I look at look back in Malaysia and also Indonesia, the regulators mandated the industry to be part of it. But before mandate happened, actually the banks or the industries went to the regulator, said, hey, we want to do this and we have a lot of things on our plate. And it's all about prioritization. Yeah? If the regulator help us to mandate it, we make it as our top priority. Yeah, so it is not a one-way conversation, it's always two-way conversation to make it happen. And when we talk about the real-time payments, it involves regulators, the banks, the non-banks. And one of the key things that we tend to forget is about the merchant. Because the merchant also have to be ready when the banks, the fintechs, migrated into the real-time rail, then if the merchant is not ready from the reporting, consolidation, that could be a big issue as well. So these are things that you need, just not talk about the banks and the fintechs, don't forget the merchant as well, and education to the customers. Yeah.
Perfect. Thank you. Trent, anything to add to that?
Look, if I give you my experience from Australia, and if Luke spoke yesterday, he'd probably know the same experience when we were working with AusPayNet. Like, I remember the very first workshop that we did around real-time payments, which I think was back to like 2013, 2014, and the use case we came up with was private car sales. So how good is this? I could transfer the money, see that the money's hit the account, and then hand over the keys. This is revolutionary, and we thought that was going to be the winning use case. But really, outside of the regulatory and the changes, is trying to understand how will New Zealand use this technology into the future, and that's really an open book.
Cool. Shelley, do you have any perspective on that sort of regulatory oversight mandate?
I think what we've heard from Minister Bailey is, he'd prefer a light regulatory touch on the industry here. I think we would agree with that, but I'd probably just reiterate what I said before. If we had a little bit more clarity on our vision for the future, then I think we would move along faster. There's a lot of conversations that are happening, but we're probably not documenting down and agreeing the actual path forward and then making a start.
I found that particularly interesting in your korero about Malaysia, where the first thing you did was develop a 5-year plan. Yeah. You didn't start with going, right, we're doing real-time payments now. You started with the discussion around a plan for 5 years and how that would look.
I think just to add to that, we've also heard a lot, and I think, again, a really relevant point is to make sure that we are being consumer-led and actually talking to end users of these payment tools and the data tools, and also making sure that the experience will be adopted. So we don't want to start creating experiences that nobody's going to be using.
Yeah, that's a really good point.
Sorry, just to add on to that, so it's not a bolt-on new capability, right? You're going to supersede some of the legacy technology. So if you're seeing it's an additional cost and additional regulation, it's not that at all. It's actually a transformation where you could decommission some of the legacy technologies, simplify some of the regulation, and you're getting to your point of arrival in the future, which is a way better experience for New Zealanders, both consumers, merchants, and all payment companies.
Yeah, true. We do have a question from the world famous Anonymous. As our industry continues to innovate and connect globally, how do we ensure safety by design and trust? Shelley, we're going to throw this one straight to you.
I think digital identity is, again, something that we've picked up on. I would say with real-time payments, we do need to make sure that we've got real-time fraud monitoring and prevention as a capability before we start pushing payments and moving money. And that's, again, just because of the banks being the custodians of our customers' money. We don't want to be putting customers at risk. We want to enable them to have trust in the payments that they're making and who they're sharing their data with as well. So putting all of those preventions up ahead it's a little bit around that order of how you build out this modular system.
Trent, would you like to weigh in on that?
Yeah, I mean, transaction monitoring and financial crime and fraud management, it all comes down to a basic model, is identifying those transactions that are either good or bad, and then you have those ones that go in between. When it's real time, you don't have the opportunity where you can kind of hold up a payment like we do with cards, do some investigation, check with the customer, and then let it through. It's got to be instant. So making sure that you complement the payment infrastructure with good transaction monitoring to avoid those false positives. That's really the key.
Cool. We've got one final question specifically for Shelley. Congratulations. And in 20 seconds or less, as you transition to your new opportunity, so thanks for that talk, what would you like to see happen in the future world of the merchant payments world? So with your new hat on, what would you like to fix for your old hat?
I would probably in 20 seconds say I would love to see merchants feeling like there's a value to the payment acceptance, understanding the service that they receive, and making sure that they understand the value that's being provided to them regardless of the method of payment that they're receiving.
So more into the tent rather than slightly outside of the tent. That's what I'm hearing. Kia ora. Thank you. Well, thank you for those questions. Thank you, Kairoan, Trent and Shelley for your thoughtful answers as well. That's the end of this panel, and we don't want to get in the way of you and lunch. So, ngā mihi nui kia koutou, thank you all, and we're going to head straight back over to Mike.